Larson. I did my passion project on high-end dining. Scroll down and just show the first two pictures. So it's kind of like a weird passion, right? Like high-end dining doesn't really make sense. But so I've been making food with my family since I was like 3. My family has always had really busy schedules. We've always been like out of the house at different times, so we're never really together except for at dinner time. So we would try and make dinner as special an event as we possibly could. So we would spend an hour plus, even when I was really little, trying to like do something fun with dinner. Like even like simple stuff, like we tried to make taco salad together, even though none of us really knew what we were doing. So it has sort of like a special place for me. Every holiday, specifically Thanksgiving and Christmas, we would make pies and other desserts together. There was one Christmas where we made, I think it was 14 full-size pies from scratch to give them to people. We started at 9 a.m. and we're working until 11:30 p.m. I was 11, I think. But I didn't mind. It was just time with the family. That sort of translated into, when I got older, like everyone likes food, but a sort of like fervent passion for learning about food, making food. There's not a single type of food I don't like. I eat anything. I try and find as many new things as I possibly can to eat. So when the passion project was announced, I was like, well, I would love to turn this into something rather than something I'm just passionate about. I'd rather turn it into a learning experience, something where I can teach myself something new that I've never done before and sort of impress the people around me, my family, my friends, that sort of thing. And I figured that would be, it started out as high-end desserts, but I realized that wasn't broad enough a topic for a passion project. So I changed it to high-end dining, meaning plating, entrees, and desserts. So these are like images. I didn't make this stuff. This is Kobe beef. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Kobe beef is, right now it's really cheap. I don't really know why, but it goes for about $120 a pound. It's typically served raw because it's so expensive, so high quality that they don't want to change the flavor at all. This specific dish is served with just a side of bean sprouts because it's an Asian thing. Kobe is an Asian thing, it's Japanese. That over there is a roasted pork chop with savory wafers. It's a sort of Arabic sort of thing. It has like a cumin rub on it. Can you scroll down a little bit? So what I mean by high-end, typically when someone says high-end dining, you think of high-end restaurant, somewhere where you go with like really nice clothes and your family like once or twice a year. What I mean by high-end is something that's not, I mean high quality, but I don't just mean high quality because just because something has high quality ingredients doesn't mean it's good. I mean something that takes time, effort, serious preparation, multiple tries to get down, not something that's just super simple, you just kind of like throw it together, throw it in the microwave, throw it in the oven for like 15 minutes, and then it's done. Can you go to the About Me page? The About Me page up there. So these are, obviously this is not food, I have nothing to do with food. So these are my dogs. It's a passion project. It's about something you're very passionate about. I know this seems kind of random, but my dogs are such a huge part of my life, I can't just leave them out. I spend multiple hours with them every day. My dogs' names are Bo and Blue. That's Bo, that's Blue. They're not related to food at all, but it's just sort of like, I mean like they eat a lot of food, but like they're not related to high-end dining at all. I just needed to refer to them because they're just such a huge part of my life. So scroll down. So a large part of food comes with who you share it with, because there's the making of food and you can eat it yourself, but that's kind of sad and depressing. Like you make a bunch of food, you go in a room and you eat it by yourself. That's kind of like, that's like really sad. So like a huge part of my driving force behind passion is sharing my food with other people. So another part I have to include in my presentation is the people I care about. So these are my 4 closest friends. This is Luke Elrod. He doesn't go here anymore, but he was here up until this year. This is Austin Hammond. Probably don't know him. He's very, very quiet, doesn't talk to anybody. This is Forrest Daly, very similar personality, doesn't talk to anybody. And that's Zach Long, which some of you probably know. He's a senior here. Those 3 are all seniors here. That over there is my essentially brother, Chase Mansfeld. He is a freshman at San Diego State right now. I've cooked and made a ton of food with him. He did a passion project last year on cooking. I think it was on barbecue last year. And he did that at my house. I don't know. He's just another person that I share a lot of food with. Scroll down. So that's my mom. That's my sister. They are not an inspiration for this passion, but the people that I did all that cooking with, the taco salad, that sort of thing when I was little, the baking that I did with the pies and the other desserts, that was with them. My dad, I didn't see my dad much up until I was 10 because he has his own health issues that he has to deal with. So he wasn't really ready to be a parent until we were older and able to take care of ourselves and him more. So a lot of my childhood memories revolve around these 2 rather than my whole entire family. So again, these are just the other parts of the passion that aren't really talked about in the essential question, that sort of thing, that are just as important as everything else. We can go to the essential question part. So my essential question was very, very simple. It was, is high-end food better, meaning is it better than low-end food, meaning food that I talked about earlier that you just throw in the microwave and eat, just buy packaged at like Costco or something. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that type of food. I eat it a lot too, because sometimes I don't want to take an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours to make my dinner, because that's sometimes what it takes. But it's still, without a single hesitation in my mind, worse. It is worse for you. It tastes worse. It's less involved with the family and the other aspects of eating that aren't just about the food. That's sort of how we eat at my dad's house. We just kind of go to Costco, buy a bunch of packaged food, and heat it up and eat. And I see my dad maybe 30 minutes out of the day because of that. Whereas at my mom's house, I'm with her and my stepdad for about 2 hours every day because we're making food together, sitting down and actually focusing on the food and conversation and eating together and then cleaning up afterwards. So I just kind of want to go over what's in this. So this is a trout with side dishes that I made. It's a baked trout, sort of baked. You wrap it in tin foil with onions and lemon on it, and then put in the barbecue, but it's not barbecue because it's not actually on the barbecue itself, so I sort of called it baked. I don't really know what else to call it. With a side of Brussels sprouts with bacon and balsamic glaze on top, and a side of couscous. This took 2 hours to make that one plate. Well, it was 3 plates for 3 of us, but that one dinner, and it wasn't any special dinner. I think this was on Thursday. It was just some random day. That in the middle, that's a little more special. So that is a fig and goat cheese pizza with balsamic glaze, which sounds really odd, because it is, but it's one of the most unique flavors I've ever had. It was fantastic. That's not something you can just go to Costco and buy. So we have a pizza oven at our house, a bona fide pizza oven. It's brick and mortar with stucco all around it. So it takes about 18 hours to get it up to temperature. You throw wood in it, let it burn for a while, throw in more, let it burn for a while, throw in more. Gets to about 800, 900 degrees. The pizza is only in there for about 18 seconds. And then you pull it out and you leave it alone for a little bit because it's about 600 degrees and you pull it out. And it's fantastic. Making food that is so good for you and high quality, tastes better than anything you can find in any store and pretty much any restaurant. There are very few restaurants that I've ever been in that make better food than I do. That's not me being like arrogant or anything, it's just that I don't mass produce the food, so I can take special attention to it. The final image is just, so we were making raviolis, and we decided we didn't want to make them again because it takes a long time to make the pasta from scratch and stuff. So we made upwards of 100 raviolis, I think. It took us like 8 hours to do. We made like mushroom and cheese. We did like 3 cheese, 5 cheese, meatball, chicken, and a couple more. It's just another example of the preparation that goes with making better food, making high-end food, as I'm calling it. Can you go to the entrees? So, one of the aspects of the essential question we focused on was the entree portion of the meal, which is sort of like the main component that people focus on. People usually think of like the appetizers as appetizers, little things that you get and kind of move on from, don't really think about. So I didn't really include them in my essential question. I focused more on the thing that people actually care about, I guess, which would be entrees and then later dessert. So this is a T-bone steak, pretty simple, just pan-seared in butter and had a black pepper and sage crust, I think. Which took only like 30 minutes, but it took 30 minutes of standing over it, washing it, constantly basting with the butter, flipping it every minute and a half or so, making sure you got the proper crusting. That is a homemade, obviously homemade, but 3 cheese mac and cheese with tomatoes and prosciutto in it. That's another thing that only took an hour to make, and we had it for, that large tray lasted for I think 4 days, because we had it for dinner 3 nights, and then my stepdad had it for lunch a couple times. So we kind of burned through that pretty quickly, but that's like a tray that's like that big of food. There are very few foods that I make that you can just sort of mass produce, because it's like when you try and make a large quantity of it, it sort of loses its flavor, because you're trying to season it for a much larger quantity than you're supposed to. The final thing over there is a rotisserie chicken, like that we made in our oven rather than right in the store. That was 4 hours or 6 hours in the oven, with celery, carrots, garlic, onion, a few other like rosemary and other spices stuff inside of it. Left in the oven for about 4 hours to just slowly cook. So these are all things that like you can go to the store and buy a rotisserie chicken, which is, I guess, I don't want to call it, well, I do actually. That's like sort of a low-end way of doing it, the easy way of doing it without taking the time that you need to make something that's actually special, like the rotisserie chicken that we made. And that rotisserie chicken is it's the best chicken I've ever had in my life. It's like, it's head and shoulders above anything you could buy at a store, just because you have when you, like for example, if you go to Costco and you look at their rotisserie chicken, they make about 60 to 80 rotisserie chickens at a time, like a constant spinning roller, and they season them all at once together. That's sort of, there's no real attention to detail there. Like they're good, they're they're quality, but they're not special, which you can do when you do it yourself. Go to the desserts, please. Next page. So these are a few of the desserts I've made. So this is a cheesecake. The filling is just a simple cheesecake that we get with that, right? It's vanilla cheesecake with a graham cracker crust. The way you make that is you make the crust by crushing graham crackers and mixing in, I think we did honey that time, and pressing it into whatever plate you're going to use and baking it on the oven for about half an hour at high heat. which crisps it up, and then you pour in the filling, and then put it back in the oven for I think another hour over a pan of water, which sort of it keeps it from drying out, which is sort of like the most important part about a cheesecake, and keeping it smooth and creamy. The middle, on the left are 3 of those pies I was talking about that we make every year. We're down to make only 4 at Thanksgiving and 1 at Christmas now because it got pretty crazy. We all got kind of tired of spending, as much as we liked each other, spending 14 hours in the kitchen baking is a lot. So we kind of toned it back. On the right are these pecan cashew nuts tarts that we made the past 2 years. It's sort of a newer thing. Those took those ones actually only took like 35 minutes to make, just because they're simpler. On the very end is a simple chocolate espresso mousse that I've made a few times now. That was something that I reached out for because of this project. I had never made anything like that before until this project came up. That involves something I'm going to be demonstrating later, beating egg whites, beating cream, and folding it together, which is a relatively simple and basic skill, but it takes multiple tries before you can get it right. You scroll down. So this is a video about beating egg whites with a machine, which I don't do. I beat them by hand. It's better. It takes more time. It's a lot harder, but it folds air into egg whites better, which is the whole purpose of doing it. It's a 10-minute video, so we don't really need to watch that. But if you scroll down, so this is a video about folding. We can watch this one.
When making cakes or mousses, recipes often call for folding ingredients together. Folding is used to combine 2 ingredients of different densities. In many cases, one ingredient like egg whites or cream has been lightened by incorporating air into it by whipping or beating. This ingredient is then folded into a heavier ingredient like melted chocolate or egg yolks. Folding is a gentle alternative to stirring that allows the 2 ingredients to combine without losing the air bubbles. In baked goods, this air acts as leavening and helps cakes stay light. Start by separating cold, fresh eggs by breaking the eggshell in half and over a bowl, passing the yolk from shell to shell, allowing the egg white to drip into the bowl while the yolk remains in the shell. Cover the yolks with cold water to keep from hardening and reserve for another use. Room temperature egg whites are easier to beat, so let the whites sit at room temperature for a half hour. Some recipes recommend adding a small amount, usually less than a 1/4 teaspoon, of cream of tartar to help stabilize the egg whites. When the egg whites are at room temperature, beat with a whisk or an electric mixer set to high speed. Beat the whites until they are uniformly stiff. Now you're ready to fold. Take a small amount of the beaten egg whites and whisk this into the mixture to lighten the base. Next, place a 1/3 of the egg whites on top of the batter. Using a rubber spatula, gently push down through the whites and batter, and scraping up the bottom of the bowl, lift some of the batter up and over the whites. As you fold the whites into the batter, turn the bowl about a 1/4 turn. Continue folding the batter and turning the bowl until the egg whites are about halfway incorporated and the batter is lighter. Add enough.
So folding and beating egg whites are very, very basic skills, but they were things that I didn't know before this project, and it sort of forced me to learn them in order to test my boundaries, see what I could do. I don't use this video to learn how to do egg whites. I just use this video to know when to stop, because when you're beating egg whites, it goes through 4 phases, or 5. At the very beginning, it's just sort of like foamy, like just a bunch of bubbles. After a while, it sort of starts to stiffen up, and when you scoop it out, it sort of maintains its shape a little bit. That's called soft peaks. If you scroll up a little bit, just to show the whole video screen. There. The next stage, after beating it for a little longer, is firm peaks, where it holds its shape slightly better, but it still kind of droops when you pull it out. The optimal stage for almost everything with beaten egg whites is stiff peaks, which is where you pull it out and it keeps the shape perfectly. Theoretically, we'll see in a minute. If you flip it over, it should stay in the bowl. Theoretically, and then the very short after stiff peaks is overbeaten.